Welcome to this really short video tutorial. I am just going to overview the exam paper that you will be sitting. It might be useful for you to get this paper out in front of you, print it off, so then you can annotate it as I am talking. So basically this video tutorial is based on the AQA exam, any recommendations from the Webb textbook, and also from the examiner comments following this exam paper that was sat in the summer of 2016. So as you can see, this is what the front page will look like. You have got an hour and a half to answer the questions. You will also get a 12-page answer booklet. You will be expected to write in black ink. You are expected to answer all the questions in section A, that is the research method section, and all the questions from one topic in section B. Your college or your school will have chosen the topic that you are studying. In the case of Cronton sixth form, we are studying families and households, and that will be the section that you will answer. It also tells you the marks for the question that are shown in brackets. That will give you a little bit of an outline about how much to write and also how long to write for. And the maximum marks for this paper is 60. It also gives you further information that any questions that are worth 10 or more. So in this paper there will be a 16 marker, a 10 marker and a 20 marker. You should be answering that in continuous prose. So think of it like a little bit of an essay type rather than short and sweet answers. Okay, so let's go and have a little bit of a look at the paper. So the first section is research methods, and they could ask you any question about any of the research methods as recommended on the specification. So for example, interviews, both unstructured and structured, questionnaires, observation, non-participant and participant, and overt and covert, any types of the experiments, any type of secondary sources. And they could also ask you anything about the practical, ethical or theoretical considerations for choosing a choice of topic. And they could also ask you about all the things to do with research, such as sampling techniques. Okay, just double check the specification in case I have missed anything off there. So you will get two questions. The first question will be a 4-marker. It will always ask you to outline two things. In this case it's asking for two ethical issues. So in regards to the examiner comments, students typically did well on this question, but some didn't get the full 2 marks available for each point, and that might be because they didn't fully explain it. Okay, so basically if you read between the lines of the question, they want you to give an ethical issue and how might that influence whether they choose that topic or that method or not. And make sure you get 2 clear points. I would recommend that you start each of the points on a new line, so as an examiner I can clearly see that you have outlined 2 points. The second question is an evaluate using either advantages or disadvantages or problems of a method. In this case it's about official statistics. And in feedback from the examiner comments from this question is that they really liked the fact that students outlined practical, ethical and theoretical considerations. It showed good structure in their answers, but what they did recommend was that it is asking you to evaluate. So that might mean possible advantages, but also that might lead to possible problems of using official statistics. And what they did recommend was that when you did give these advantages, that you could lead to a disadvantage as you go along, so evaluation is consistent throughout the answer. Now just another point about this 16 marker, they could ask you about, very similar to this one, evaluate the ethical issues that might influence a sociologist's choice of research method. They've done that in the past, so just bear in mind that they could ask what I would refer to as a PET question, practical, ethical or theoretical question. Now this section is worth 20 marks, and we recommend that you spend 30 minutes on this. So if you say, for example, you spend about 5 minutes on the 4-mark question, that is leaving 25 minutes for the 16-mark question. Make sure that you apply to possible examples of studies that you might have used. So in the case of this, examples of official statistics, so divorce rate, birth rate, death rate, anything like that, just to back up why there might be advantages. Now, it does indicate on the front page that you are to answer one section from section B. So in the case of the majority of colleges do study family and households, so you would miss topic B1 and you would keep going and you will find topic B2, which is family and households. They did not recommend, but they did highlight in the examiner comments last year that a very, very few students did actually answer more than one section. That is really going to limit the marks that you are going to be able to gain, and that is really recommended that you avoid doing that. So stick to the section or the topic that your college has focused on. So you will see in this section you will get 5 questions, and this is where you'll be spending the next hour answering those questions. Spend 30 minutes on the first 4 and then 30 minutes on that last question. Okay, so you will always get a defined question, and that just means that you give a clear definition of the word that is given. In this case, you've got 2 words. You need to define what is meant by serial and what is meant by monogamy in order to get the 2 marks. Question 9 is asking you to give one example. So here, give what the example is of how women are exploited and say, well, how does that impact the women within the family? Okay, so, and again, that would gain you 2 marks. Typically, according to the examiner comments, both of those questions were answered really, really well on last year's paper. Students really did know the definitions and they could use an example and explain. Question 10 is always an outline 3 reasons. So that means that you've got to give 3 points and explain the reason why to get the full 2 marks for each point. I would recommend that you start each reason in this case on a new line to clearly show that you are identifying or outlining 3 reasons. And make sure that you are clearly saying why they are reasons to delay childbirth. Some students last year did identify why they were, or women were putting off having children, and that meant that they lost some of the explanation marks. So make it really clear that you are answering the question here. And then you have got question 11 is always an outline and explain 2 things. And that's where you've got to go a little bit more into detail above than what you have given for the outline 3 reasons. You've got to choose 2 ways and you've got to offer an explanation. So I would recommend that you have 2 clear paragraphs of each of the ways. And this question always asks you, or it is expecting you to make links between 2 areas of the specification. Now often the exam question will naturally do that. So for example, you've got topic 7, which is government policies, linking it into topic 2, which is childhood. So by naturally the question has already linked it to 2 areas of the specification together. Some questions might not be as clear as that, but in the case of this one it is really, really clear. And what you need to do is identify, say, one way of a government policy and then how is it affecting the experience of childhood today. Follow a logical chain of reasoning. Make sure that you are identifying childhood today, how and explain what the experience is of the childhood, linking it back to the policies. Typically, students could identify a range of government policies that impact childhood, but it was their explanation that was quite limited. So you've really got to fully explain, link it to studies, link it to explanations and examples, and also remember there are evaluation marks available. So make sure that you are offering some sort of critique just to get them extra 2 marks at the end. So those 4 questions should take you 30 minutes to do. And then this last question you are spending a good 30 minutes on. So it will always give you an item. I would recommend that you clearly reference the item at least once in your answer. It will also ask you to apply the material and your knowledge as well. And it's asking you to evaluate. So that should be signalling to you that you don't want to give a one-sided answer. You should be bringing in criticisms, other theories which might oppose or critique the view that is asked in the question. So in case of this one, this is topic 3 because it's about the functions of the family, according to Marxist in this case. According to the examiner comments, students typically did know the Marxist functions of the family, but they need to develop the ways that other theories like the functionalist or Marxist feminist or even postmodernist might critique that Marxist view of our understanding of the family. Okay, so that is basically an overview of the mock exam. Further down there are other topics, but you might not study them. I would just totally ignore them. Just focus on section A and the topic section from section B. In our case it is B2, which is family and households. Okay, so thank you for listening. Again, I have used as a source the AQA exam paper, the Webb textbook for reference, and also the examiner comments from last year's exam paper. Thank you for listening.